Hi there.
Judy,
How are you?
I am good. And yourself?
I'm fine, thanks. Sorry you had trouble reaching me.
No, no worries whatsoever. I've got you
Thank
now.
you.
Can you hear me
Good.
okay?
I can.
Well, first of all, with the 2017 Grammy nominee for Best Folk Album, Silver Skies Blue, congrats and welcome back, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. That's a real treat for me. And for Ari, we're just so happy.
Was it an exciting moment learning about it? Share the moment that you found out it was happening.
I was shocked because it was the first time in 40 years that I've been nominated, so I thought they forgot all about me.
Yeah. And where were you when you got the news?
Where was I? Um, I think that I was, I don't know. I can't remember.
Well, we had Herb Alpert on, and he was nominated, and he had a great story of just remembering somebody in his office calling him really early in the morning. He was like, "I wonder why they're calling me at this ridiculous hour," and it turned out to be.
You know something? I was called very early in the morning, too. Where the hell was I? It was early because it was 6 o'clock in the morning somewhere, and I was not awake and woke up. I always wake up to my phone calls. And it was my manager telling me, she said, I wanted you to know before you read it on the Facebook. So, yeah, it was an early morning call, and she was calling because she was very excited.
Probably a whole lot of calls that
And
one day.
she was calling me from Oslo.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, Herb was here in Honolulu. They were calling him from somewhere on the
Oh, that's
mainland.
funny.
But yeah, I'm sure there's a whole lot of calls happening within just a few hours
Oh, yeah.
of that. And does that change now? Something like that. One thing I was thinking of is when these pop up like this, and you're totally not expecting it. Do you change your travel plans so that you can be there for the thing?
Oh,
Or
yes, we did, because we had a date scheduled, and we had to reschedule it. I forget where it was. But I said, well, I can't go because I've got and Ari will have to go and receive it, the nomination. And then my manager rerouted us, so we're going.
That's cool. Well, you don't want to miss something like this. Now, it
No.
follows Strangers Again from 2015. Now, in my personal view, I'm just wondering why something like that wouldn't have really hooked up, because you look at the truckload of guests that you wheeled in for this thing. Willie Nelson, Jackson Brown, Jimmy Buffett, Don McLean, Jeff Bridges, Michael McDonald, Mark Cohn, just to name some of the cats that you got on there. How do you assemble a list like that? What's the thought process for something?
Well, first of all, I think in part that Strangers Again led to this nomination, quite
Mm.
frankly. And I think the reason was, first of all, they heard Strangers Again, a song which was written by Ari. And then they heard the duets album with me and Ari with all the songs we'd written together. But I think it primed the pump. I think it was like a little starter dough, that album. Although they didn't give that the Grammy, I think it got their attention. You know what I'm saying?
Was it nominated too?
No, but I think it got their attention. I think it went through the pipeline, and I think they were aware. Let's say aware of what's going on in the career in a different way.
Mm. That sounds cool. That makes some sense. Are there good stories of when I name those cats, when you think about getting to know them and then having them as a part of your life that you can call up for something like this? When did you get to know some of those people, like Willie, for example?
Oh, I've known Willie for decades, and actually I was on Farm Aid. I love him. He's just such a wonderful man. And actually, sadly, we both lost sons the same year, same month,
Mm.
from the same causes, and that we shared about that and talked about it when it happened. So sad. But I've known Willie for many, many years. So I have a personal relationship as well as being a professional, an admirer of him professionally and personally. So I just think he's a great fellow. And my duet with him on this Dave Carter song that we sang, "When I Go," it got me into the bluegrass world. The bluegrass, I don't know what you call it. on their website. I'm charting up in the top with them because of that song, so it's very interesting.
Right, it connects you to different folks. Like, and another one, we just had Jeff Bridges just came through town. He did a gig. I guess it was actually about a year ago now, but it feels like it was yesterday. He was on the show. Where'd you develop your rapport with him?
Well, he and I met when he and his brothers and a man I used to live with, Stacy Keach, and his brothers and the Teardine brothers did a movie called The Songwriter about Jesse James. And I got to know Jeff then. That was back in the late 60s, early 70s, something like that. And so I always liked him. I always thought he's a good guy. He's a good guy. And I loved Crazy Heart. So when I called him about this album, he said, "Oh, that would be wonderful." I said, "I'd really like to sing one of my ideas on this album was to get these guys to sing a duet with me on one of their big hits, you know." And so I said, "Why don't we sing Crazy Heart together?" And he said, "No, that's not a good idea." He said, "I'd like to sing the song I want to sing with you is from Candide, which is opening now in New York for a big run." And I never knew Candide. I didn't know the music at all. So when he chose that song, I listened to it, and I said, "That's perfect, perfect." I've known all of these guys for years. And, of course, Jackson, I just love Jackson. He's such a sweetheart. I had heard that song of Randy's, and I wanted to sing a duet with Randy because I discovered and recorded I Think It's Gonna Rain Today in 1966. So I kind of started him on his singer-songwriter path because he didn't even think about becoming a singer-songwriter until he heard my recording of that song. And I just wanted to and he said, "No, I can't sing with you." He said, "My voice is so shot." And I said, "Well, that's the point. I mean, that's what the contest is, you know." And he said, "Oh, I don't like that kind of contest." And then I heard the song that he wrote. I went to see a performance of a musical of his called Faust. And that was written in the 90s, 95 or 96, I think. And I had never heard it. And so Feels Like Home is the song from that show. And I played it for Jackson. He said, "Oh, that's for me. I love that song. Let's do that one." So, you know, everybody had their different... I had gotten to know Glenn Hansard before. And he came to see me at a big concert festival in Ann Arbor. And he came backstage and he said, "Oh, I love your singing. He's a total other generation from me." But we got friendly then, and that's how I got to know him. So everybody had their own story, and they all wanted to be on board and sing. When I met Jimmy, I hadn't known Jimmy Buffett. We never met. We knew each other. We were fans of one another, but we never met. And he said to me, "Oh, we met at a party on Long Island," and he said, I've heard about this album you're doing." He said, "I want to do Someday Soon with you. I've wanted to sing that song with you forever." So that was the kind of thing it was. You know,
Wow.
It was really a wonderful collaboration with every one of them.
What a cool thing. You've gotten to do some, and another aspect when you talk about the collaborating, and you mentioned the 60s, you've recorded music from so many cats that there was such a role in the 60s, at least, where music had a very strong connection to social activism, and it's something you've kind of embodied throughout your life. UNICEF, you still working with them?
Well, I haven't physically traveled for them. They don't do that much anymore because it's too dangerous. People go over to those weird places and they get shot.
Right.
Or worse. But, of course, I support what they do. They're just wonderful. I mean, and I've been very lucky to be involved with a number of things to raise money for causes that I believe in and to raise, you know, consciousness. When I go out nowadays to speak, I quite often have speeches about mental health of one kind or another. I've done a lot of speeches and speaking engagements for suicide prevention groups, for mental health groups. So that's a very strong interest of mine as well.
That's a great thing that you do, and so you'll go and do these. And who will the speeches be for? A target of people who are recovering, or?
Well, I have a speaking engagement bureau up in Boston, and they'll book me for Well, I got the award from McLean Hospital this past year, which is the psychiatric hospital for Harvard. And I spoke to a group of Harvard psychiatrists last year. Sometimes they're local groups to raise money for mental health all over the country. And they exist all over the country. It's amazing. Suicide prevention groups, local and connected with the government or privately funded. So I do that sort of thing quite often.
When you think back to your history in the 60s and the civil rights movement and a lot of the social activism that it was occurring, and I think about your lineage and your history of work, did you play at some of the civil rights marches that were happening?
Oh, yes, I did. I certainly did. And I went to Mississippi in 1964 to register black voters and did traveled and sang with Fannie Lou Hamer. Yeah, I've done a lot of those things.
And did you play, you get to meet Martin Luther King along the way?
I did not. It's something I regret a great deal. I did not get to meet him. I certainly believed in what he was doing and was at a lot of peace marches but I didn't meet him face to face. I'm sorry to say.
You did some other remarkable stuff, though. On that sort of related note, you testified, if I have this right, in Chicago in support of the Chicago 7 and spiced things up.
I sure did.
You spiced things up during your testimony with some actual music, correct?
Yes, I tried singing "Where Have All the Flowers Gone," and the judge, Judge Hoffman, had the clerk come over and put his hand over my mouth and say, "No singing in this courtroom." Got people's attention.
Yeah, right? That would definitely.
I said he would have been better off had he let me sing.
What are some, when you think of along the way, paying tribute to that legacy, certainly that you've established for lending a helping hand and for having, music that touches people on a variety of levels. There was a star-studded tribute album I understand you sort of oversaw when you were working Dolly Parton, Joan Baez, Chrissie Hynde. Are there standout memories of that?
Oh, well, certainly, yes. And I made an album for Women's Strike for Peace, which was one of the big peace organizations in New York, and that was very exciting. Buffy St. Marie and Joan Baez, and that was exciting. And, I'm always trying to keep my hand in.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing. And give a little plug for what's in store with the shows that you've got coming through the islands. What can people expect?
Oh, it's very exciting because I'll be with Ari, who is my co-writer and co-singer on on Silver Skies Blue. So he and I will do some of our songs from that CD, and then I'll do some of the hits. I think I have to, and I love to.
So it's like a duo format.
Yeah, part of it, not all of it.
Okay.
I'll do a solo turn, and then I'll invite Ari on to sing a few songs, and then I'll go back to my solo turn.
And you're a friend of the Clintons, I remember quite well. Have you been in touch with them since the election ended?
Oh, I haven't. I got a note from President Clinton thanking me for something I had sent them. I've been watching like everybody else. It's hard, very hard.
That's an understatement. But it's
what we're faced with is an overhauling of everything we believe in. It's going to be a time for a lot of work and a lot of activism and a lot of keeping our optimism and our spirits high.
Well, on that note, as I wrap it up with you, we are a nonprofit NPR station, so we're running Morning Edition, and I host All Things Considered, as you know, and we are trying to be that voice of the truth and fact, really, when we report
Absolutely.
news. And when you're in town, if you have any extra time, it would be wonderful if you wanted to stop by the radio station. It would be a great way to give some voice to what you're up to. Maybe you could play a song acoustic in the studio or something. I just put the idea in your head. It'd be a wonderful way.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I'll have my people talk to your people.
That would be great.
We'll figure it out.
That would be wonderful, Judy.
Hi, it's Judy Collins, and you are right where you should be with my friend Dave Lawrence.
I give you a big hug, a high five.
Okay.
Looking forward to seeing you, and it'll be great to have you in the studio.
As you cross the airwaves, and I'll talk to you soon.
Be safe, Judy. Aloha.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Aloha.